Today we're diving into a topic that hits home for many of us: how to outsmart toxic and evil people. It's not just about protecting yourself, it's about understanding the dynamics of these relationships, becoming emotionally aware, and taking empowered action. I want to guide you through 7 tactics that will give you the tools to handle toxicity with grace, strength, and wisdom. 1, recognize the red flags early. The first step in outsmarting toxic people is learning how to spot the signs early. Toxic individuals often manipulate, belittle, or try to control others. These behaviors can be subtle, so it's essential to trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore that gut feeling. Recognizing these red flags allows you to step back before you're fully pulled into their negativity. 2, set clear and healthy boundaries. Setting boundaries is not about being harsh. It's about protecting your emotional space. Toxic people often test the limits of your personal boundaries, and without clear limits, they may push you into situations that compromise your well-being. Learn to say no without guilt. Remember, your boundaries are not just for you. They are an act of self-respect. The clearer you are about what's acceptable and what's not, the less power toxic individuals have over you. 3, practice emotional self-regulation. When dealing with toxic people, they may try to provoke emotional reactions in you: anger, guilt, or fear. Staying calm and regulated in the face of provocation is one of the most powerful strategies. Emotional self-regulation is about knowing how to respond, not react. When you respond from a place of mindfulness, you're not giving away your power. It takes practice, but you can train yourself to pause, reflect, and act intentionally. 4, empathy, but with detachment. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of a toxic person's emotions. While empathy is a beautiful human quality, it's important to know that you can empathize with someone's pain without being dragged into their chaos. You don't need to absorb their negativity to understand them. Practice compassionate detachment. Offer empathy without allowing yourself to become emotionally enmeshed with their toxic behavior. This gives you the strength to protect your peace. 5, be assertive, not aggressive. Assertiveness is the art of communicating your needs and feelings without being passive or aggressive. When you're dealing with toxic individuals, it's crucial to assert your boundaries clearly. Toxic people will often try to make you feel small, but standing your ground in a respectful and direct way dismantles their power. You don't need to shout, manipulate, or get angry to assert yourself. Simply stating your needs with confidence is enough. 6, detach from their drama. Toxic people love drama. They thrive on chaos and often try to draw others into their narrative. The key to outsmarting them is to not take the bait. When they try to pull you into their drama, remember that you have the choice to step out. Distance yourself from their emotional volatility. This not only saves your energy, but also protects you from unnecessary stress. 7, empower yourself through growth. Lastly, outsmarting toxic people is about personal growth. The more you invest in your own development, whether emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, the less power toxic people have over you. You'll find that you can handle challenging relationships with greater ease when you're strong in your sense of self. Empowerment isn't about overpowering others, it's about mastering yourself and letting go of the need for validation from toxic sources. Remember this: toxic people are only as powerful as you allow them to be. By setting boundaries, regulating your emotions, and choosing to stay grounded in your truth, you create the space to outsmart them, not with force, but with wisdom. Empower yourself with these tactics, and you'll find that not only do you avoid their traps, you rise above them. Recognizing the red flags of toxic or evil behavior is one of the most crucial steps in outsmarting these individuals. In many cases, toxic behavior can be subtle and hard to detect until you're already emotionally entangled in the situation. Understanding the signs early on allows you to protect yourself and avoid deeper harm. It's essential to learn to trust your intuition, as often the early warning signs manifest as a gut feeling that something isn't right, even before you can fully identify the specific behavior. Toxic people come in many forms, but they often share certain characteristics that are easy to spot once you know what to look for. One of the most common red flags is manipulation. Manipulative individuals use guilt, fear, or emotional pressure to get what they want. They may twist your words or make you doubt your own perceptions to create confusion. This type of behavior is often disguised as concern or care, but the underlying motive is control. If someone constantly makes you feel like you owe them something or tries to make you feel bad for not meeting their expectations, this is a huge red flag. Another sign of toxic behavior is the consistent need to create drama. Toxic individuals thrive on chaos and instability, often sowing discord among groups of people or within relationships. They might spread rumors, gossip, or provoke conflict in subtle ways, watching how others react and enjoying the chaos that follows. This type of behavior is often used as a tool to divert attention away from their own issues, making them feel powerful when others are distracted or upset. If you find yourself constantly caught up in unnecessary drama or arguments when interacting with someone, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. Narcissism is also a major red flag to watch for. People with narcissistic tendencies often lack empathy and view others primarily as tools for their own gain. They demand constant admiration and validation and can quickly become angry or dismissive when they don't get it. Toxic narcissists often have a way of making you feel small, as though your needs and feelings don't matter in comparison to theirs. If you're with someone who constantly undermines your self-worth, makes everything about themselves, or never seems to take responsibility for their actions, these are classic signs of toxic narcissism. Another red flag to consider is how a person treats others. Toxic individuals are often unkind or disrespectful to those around them, especially those they perceive as weaker or more vulnerable. They may be rude to waitstaff, belittle coworkers, or take advantage of people who are too kind-hearted to fight back. This behavior often reveals the true nature of a person, how they treat others when they think no one is watching. If someone you know regularly displays a lack of respect for others or treats people poorly, it's a strong indication that they may be toxic. One of the most insidious red flags is the emotional drain they cause. Toxic people often leave you feeling exhausted, confused, and emotionally depleted. After interacting with them, you may feel like you've been on an emotional roller coaster, never quite knowing where you stand or whether their words and actions were sincere. They may make you question your own emotional stability or cause you to feel like you're walking on eggshells, constantly trying to please them or avoid conflict. The emotional toll of dealing with a toxic person can be profound, leading to stress, anxiety, and a sense of constant unease. By learning to recognize these early warning signs, you can avoid becoming entangled with toxic individuals in the first place. It's important to remember that recognizing these red flags is not about labeling or judging others harshly. It's about self-preservation. Trusting your instincts and being aware of these behaviors can help you safeguard your emotional health and create space for healthier, more supportive relationships. Toxic people may try to manipulate or charm their way into your life, but by being vigilant and setting clear boundaries early on, you can protect yourself from their harm before they ever get the chance to have a lasting impact on your well-being. Setting clear and healthy boundaries is one of the most powerful tools in protecting yourself from toxic individuals. Often the lack of boundaries allows toxic people to invade your emotional, mental, and physical space, leaving you feeling drained, disrespected, or manipulated. Boundaries are not just about saying no. They are an essential way to maintain control over your life and protect your well-being. Setting boundaries means knowing your limits, understanding what you are willing to tolerate, and communicating these limits to others in a way that honors both your needs and the needs of those around you. When toxic individuals come into your life, they may attempt to push or violate your boundaries in various ways, testing how far they can go before you push back. These violations can come in many forms, such as overstepping personal space, making unreasonable demands on your time or energy, or attempting to manipulate your emotions. If you don't have strong boundaries in place, you may find yourself giving in to these demands, either because you don't want to upset the person or because you feel obligated to meet their needs. Over time, this can lead to feelings of resentment, burnout, and a diminished sense of self-worth. The first step in setting boundaries is understanding what your needs are. This requires deep self-awareness and honesty. Take time to reflect on what you are comfortable with and where you feel discomfort or emotional tension. Are there certain behaviors from others that make you feel unsafe, unappreciated, or powerless? Are there specific situations that drain your energy or leave you feeling anxious or stressed? Identifying these areas is the key to establishing your limits. For example, if you value your personal time and feel overwhelmed by constant requests for help, acknowledging that you need time for yourself is the first step in setting a boundary. This isn't about being selfish. It's about understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Once you've established your needs, it's important to communicate your boundaries clearly and assertively. This can be difficult, especially when you are dealing with toxic people who may try to dismiss or ignore your limits. They might respond with guilt trips, passive-aggressive remarks, or attempts to manipulate you into feeling bad for asserting yourself. However, it's essential to stand firm and communicate in a way that is respectful but non-negotiable. You have every right to protect your time, your energy, and your emotion. Using statements like, "I am not available at this time," or "I'm unable to do that for you," can be simple yet firm ways to establish boundaries. You don't have to justify your decision or explain yourself endlessly. Setting a boundary doesn't require you to feel guilty or responsible for how the other person reacts. It's simply an assertion of your own needs and limits. Another crucial aspect of setting healthy boundaries is understanding that they are not static. They can evolve over time as your needs and circumstances change. The key to maintaining boundaries is consistency. Toxic individuals may test your boundaries repeatedly, seeing if you will let them slide. It's important to be consistent in upholding your limits. If you give in once, it can send the message that your boundaries are flexible, and they may continue to push them further. In the long run, being consistent will help reinforce your boundaries and show others that you mean what you say. Boundaries are not just about what you say no to, they're also about what you say yes to. By saying yes to the things that truly nourish you, whether it's spending time with people who respect you, taking time for yourself, or pursuing activities that bring you joy, you are reinforcing the boundaries that protect your well-being. These positive boundaries help you to build a life that is in alignment with your values and priorities, rather than constantly accommodating the needs of others at the expense of your own health. In relationships with toxic people, boundaries also provide you with a sense of control. When you set boundaries, you reclaim the power that toxic individuals might have taken from you. You stop being at the mercy of their manipulation, guilt, or demands. Boundaries allow you to interact with toxic individuals on your terms with less emotional investment and less risk of being hurt. They help you disengage from toxic dynamics, whether it's a family member, a colleague, or a friend, without feeling like you are losing something of value. Setting healthy boundaries is a form of self-respect. It's a powerful act of taking control over your own life and choosing to prioritize your well-being. Boundaries allow you to protect your emotional and mental space, reduce unnecessary stress, and create healthier, more balanced relationships. It can be difficult at first, especially if you're not used to asserting yourself, but over time, setting clear boundaries will become second nature. And the more you practice, the more empowered and in control you will feel in the face of toxic behaviors. Emotional awareness and self-regulation are foundational skills when it comes to dealing with toxic individuals. These skills allow you to remain calm, centered, and in control, even in the midst of highly charged or provocative situations. Toxic people often try to trigger emotional reactions in others, whether it's through manipulation, criticism, or controlling behavior. The more aware you are of your emotional responses and the better you are at regulating them, the less likely you are to be drawn into their toxic patterns. Emotional awareness is not about suppressing your feelings, but about acknowledging them and understanding their root causes. while self-regulation is about choosing how to respond rather than reacting impulsively. The first step toward emotional awareness is recognizing your feelings as they arise. Many people are conditioned to suppress or ignore their emotions, especially in high-stress environments or toxic relationships. However, emotions are powerful signals that provide valuable information about how we're interacting with others and the world around us. For example, if you notice feelings of anger, frustration, or anxiety when interacting with a certain person, these emotions may indicate that something is off. Instead of ignoring or burying these feelings, emotional awareness allows you to pause and reflect on why you're feeling this way. Are these emotions a result of the toxic person's behavior? Are they triggering old wounds or insecurities? Understanding the source of your emotions helps you avoid knee-jerk reactions and enables you to respond more thoughtfully. Self-regulation comes into play once you've identified your emotions. It involves the ability to choose how you react to these feelings rather than allowing them to dictate your actions. Toxic people often thrive on causing an emotional stir, whether it's pushing your buttons or trying to provoke you into an argument. They want you to lose your cool because when you do, they can gain control of the situation. However, self-regulation allows you to take a step back before reacting, helping you respond in a way that aligns with your values and preserves your dignity. When you can regulate your emotions, you can avoid escalating the situation and instead create space for calm and clarity. One important aspect of emotional self-regulation is practicing the pause. This is simply the act of taking a brief moment to check in with yourself before reacting. For instance, when a toxic individual makes a cutting remark or tries to manipulate you, instead of immediately reacting with anger, frustration, or defensiveness, take a deep breath and pause. This pause gives you the opportunity to assess your emotional response and determine the best course of action. Do you need to address the behavior directly? Is it best to walk away and regroup? Is it better to disengage altogether? This moment of pause empowers you to make conscious decisions rather than being controlled by emotional impulses. Another key element of emotional self-regulation is knowing when to detach emotionally. Toxic individuals often try to pull you into their emotional turmoil, whether it's by playing the victim, stirring up drama, or creating conflict. Their goal is to involve you in their chaos. However, when you are emotionally regulated, you can choose to disengage from the emotional drama. Detaching emotionally doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means recognizing that their emotional state is not your responsibility and that their behavior doesn't need to affect you. You can listen, acknowledge their feelings, and still maintain your own emotional equilibrium. The practice of mindfulness is also invaluable when it comes to emotional awareness and self-regulation. Mindfulness involves staying present in the moment and observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment. This practice helps you to become more aware of your emotional triggers and patterns, and it can teach you how to respond more effectively in difficult situations. By regularly practicing mindfulness, you cultivate a heightened sense of emotional awareness, allowing you to better manage your reactions and avoid being swept away by toxic behaviors. Self-regulation also involves creating emotional distance from toxic individuals. This doesn't mean shutting them out entirely or completely ignoring their feelings, but it means recognizing that you can only control your own emotional responses, not theirs. If a toxic person is behaving in a way that triggers a strong emotional response in you, it's helpful to set boundaries around those emotions. For example, you might choose to take a break from the situation, or you might remind yourself that their actions are a reflection of their own issues, not a reflection of your worth. This emotional distancing allows you to engage with the person without being consumed by their negativity. Emotional awareness and self-regulation are about reclaiming your emotional power. Toxic individuals can only gain control over you if you let them manipulate your emotions. But when you are aware of your feelings and can regulate your responses, you maintain control over yourself and your interactions. This self-mastery is empowering because it frees you from being at the mercy of others' toxic behaviors. Rather than reacting out of fear, anger, or frustration, You respond with intention, clarity, and grace. The more you practice emotional awareness and self-regulation, the more resilient you become in the face of toxic people, and the more you cultivate an inner peace that no one can take from you. Empathy, when used with detachment, is a powerful tool in dealing with toxic individuals. It allows you to maintain compassion and understanding without becoming emotionally entangled in their negative behaviors or emotional drama. Toxic people often seek to pull others into their chaos, manipulating emotions to achieve their goals, whether that's gaining sympathy, control, or simply creating turmoil. By practicing empathy with detachment, you can engage with their emotions without absorbing them, thereby preserving your own emotional well-being while still offering a level of understanding that can help diffuse the situation. Empathy itself is the ability to recognize and understand the feelings of others. It's about putting yourself in another person's shoes, recognizing their struggles, and acknowledging their pain. When you empathize with a toxic person, you are able to see them as a human being, which can help you avoid labeling them as evil or bad outright. Often, toxic individuals exhibit destructive behaviors because they themselves are dealing with unresolved issues, emotional pain, or a need for validation. Recognizing this can soften your response to their behavior and prevent you from reacting in anger or frustration. Empathy in the face of toxicity needs to be coupled with detachment. Detachment does not mean indifference or lack of compassion. Rather, it's the practice of maintaining an emotional distance from someone else's emotional state so that their feelings do not dictate your own reactions. This emotional distance is essential when dealing with toxic people because their emotions are often designed to elicit a response from you. If you allow their emotional turmoil to pull you in, you run the risk of losing control over your own feelings and becoming involved in their toxicity. The key to empathetic detachment is the ability to acknowledge and validate the toxic person's emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. For example, if a toxic individual is angry or upset, instead of getting caught up in their anger or matching it with your own, you can acknowledge their feelings by saying something like, "I can see you're really upset and I understand that's difficult for you." This allows them to feel heard and understood, which may diffuse their intensity, but it also sets a clear boundary that their emotional state does not need to be yours. This approach allows you to remain grounded in your own emotional space, even when interacting with someone who may be trying to provoke or manipulate you. It helps you avoid getting pulled into unnecessary conflict or becoming emotionally reactive. Toxic people often thrive on creating drama and emotional turbulence, and if you give in to their attempts to control your emotions, you give them power over you. Empathetic detachment, however, allows you to stay calm and unaffected, maintaining your own peace while still acknowledging the other person's experience. To practice this, it's essential to have a strong sense of self-awareness. You need to be able to recognize when a toxic person is trying to provoke an emotional response from you. If you are aware of your own emotional triggers, you can prevent yourself from reacting impulsively. When someone is pushing your buttons, take a moment to pause and check in with yourself. Ask yourself if their emotional state is truly your responsibility. Remind yourself that you are not required to fix their problems, carry their emotional weight, or become emotionally enmeshed with their struggles. Another important aspect of empathetic detachment is setting clear emotional boundaries. These boundaries are not just physical, they are emotional and mental as well. It's about knowing where your emotional space ends and where theirs begins. This separation helps you stay centered and unaffected by their turmoil. For instance, if someone is expressing anger or frustration in a way that feels overwhelming, instead of internalizing their anger, you can distance yourself emotionally, acknowledging their feelings, but not absorbing them. Saying something like, "I understand you're upset, but I cannot engage in this conversation right now," allows you to protect your emotional state while still showing understanding. Empathetic detachment also involves letting go of the need to fix or save others. Toxic individuals often rely on others to rescue them from their emotional struggles, and they can be particularly adept at playing the victim to gain sympathy or control. However, you are not responsible for their emotions or for solving their problems. Offering empathy means offering understanding, not trying to change or fix them. The more you detach from the idea that you have to make things better for them, the less power they will have over your emotional state. Practicing empathy with detachment allows you to maintain a sense of peace and emotional resilience. When you're not constantly reacting to the emotional turmoil of others, you create space for your own well-being. This not only protects you from becoming overwhelmed by toxic energy, but also enables you to stay clear-headed and focused in difficult situations. You can engage with toxic individuals with compassion, but you do so without sacrificing your own peace of mind. You become less affected by their emotional manipulations and, in turn, more empowered to handle difficult interactions with grace and strength. Empathetic detachment is the balance between understanding the emotions of toxic individuals and maintaining emotional distance. It allows you to engage with their pain without absorbing it, to acknowledge their feelings without losing your own sense of self, and to offer compassion without falling into the trap of emotional manipulation. Through this practice, you gain the ability to protect your emotional well-being while still remaining a compassionate and understanding presence in the face of toxicity. Assertiveness is a crucial tool when it comes to outsmarting toxic individuals. It involves standing up for yourself in a respectful and confident way without being passive or aggressive. Toxic people often try to manipulate or control others by using guilt, intimidation, or emotional blackmail. And without assertiveness, it's easy to fall prey to these tactics. Being assertive is not about dominating others or forcing your opinions on them. Rather, it's about clearly expressing your needs, setting boundaries, and communicating your values, all while maintaining respect for both yourself and the other person. It's a skill that empowers you to take control of your own life and ensures that your voice is heard in a way that honors your worth and dignity. One of the key aspects of assertiveness is understanding that your feelings, needs, and desires are just as valid as anyone else's. Toxic people often try to convince you that your needs don't matter or that you should prioritize their desires over your own. They may attempt to undermine your sense of self-worth by making you feel guilty for saying no or for asserting your personal limits. However, assertiveness is the ability to firmly express that your needs are important and that you have the right to say no when something doesn't align with your values or well-being. Recognizing your own worth is the first step in becoming assertive, because when you value yourself, you are less likely to allow others to diminish your needs. When you are assertive, you communicate directly and respectfully without being overly passive or overly aggressive. A passive person might avoid confrontation altogether, even if they are being mistreated or manipulated, while an aggressive person might demand their way through hostility or forceful behavior. Assertiveness, on the other hand, strikes a healthy balance between these extremes. It allows you to speak up for yourself without being confrontational. It's about saying what you mean in a way that is clear, direct, and non-apologetic. For example, if someone is trying to guilt trip you into doing something you don't want to do, an assertive response might be, "I understand that this is important to you, but I'm unable to help with that right now." You're expressing your boundary without belittling the other person or becoming defensive. One of the most important elements of assertiveness is nonverbal communication. Often what you say is less important than how you say it. Toxic people can be adept at reading body language and tone, and they may attempt to use that against you. When practicing assertiveness, it's important to maintain an open, confident posture, make eye contact, and use a steady, calm voice. Your body language should align with your words, because if there's a disconnect between what you're saying and how you're saying it, a toxic person may exploit that inconsistency. Practicing assertiveness means not just saying what you need to say, but also ensuring that your body language conveys strength, confidence, and respect. A key part of being assertive is the ability to say no without feeling guilty. Toxic individuals often rely on guilt as a tool to manipulate others into doing things that they don't want to do or things that aren't in their best interest. They may use guilt trips, passive-aggressive comments, or emotional appeals to get you to say yes, even when you know that doing so would not serve your well-being. Learning to say no without over-explaining or justifying your decision is vital. A simple no is enough, and you do not need to apologize or provide lengthy explanations. You can always say, I'm not able to do that, or that doesn't work for me. Saying no is an expression of self-respect, and it sends the message that your needs matter. Another aspect of assertiveness is learning how to handle criticism, especially when it comes from toxic individuals. Toxic people often criticize others in an effort to undermine their confidence or to manipulate them into changing their behavior. However, assertiveness allows you to receive criticism without internalizing it or allowing it to shake your sense of self-worth. Instead of becoming defensive or allowing the criticism to affect you emotionally, you can calmly acknowledge the feedback without agreeing to everything the toxic person is saying. For example, if a toxic person criticizes you in an unfair way, you might respond with, I hear your concern, but I don't agree with that perspective. This response allows you to acknowledge the criticism without accepting it as truth or allowing it to dictate your emotions. Assertiveness is about taking control of your life and your interactions with others. When you are assertive, you stop allowing toxic people to manipulate you, guilt trip you, or control your actions. You take ownership of your decisions and communicate your needs in a clear, confident way. Assertiveness not only helps protect you from toxic behaviors, but it also allows you to build healthier, more respectful relationships. Based on mutual understanding and clear communication. It's a skill that requires practice, but the more you exercise it, the more empowered and confident you'll become in navigating difficult interactions. In the face of toxic people, assertiveness is a vital tool for maintaining your integrity and standing firm in your personal values. It allows you to engage with others on your own terms and to protect your emotional, mental, and physical well-being.